Welcome to the Making Schools Work podcast, a podcast for everyone in education. This show is brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. At SREB, we believe that every school has the potential to be great. Whatever you do in the school, whatever your job may be, let's talk about things that make schools work.
Welcome back to the Making Schools Work podcast. I'm Daniel Rock, a senior instructional coach with SREB. And today I'm joined by my co-host for our special featured presenter series, Erin Anderson-Williams. Good day, Miss Anderson-Williams. How are you today?
Good morning, Dan Rock. We're looking forward to a great podcast today.
Absolutely. Erin, and our guest today is going to be Dr. Tony Johnson. Tony has spent more than 25 years working across K-12 education, higher ed, CTE, workforce development. He's been a classroom teacher, a turnaround principal, a district CTE director, and a senior leader in higher education before launching Captivate Perspectives back in 2019. Through Captivate, he works with school systems and government partners on everything from instructional practice to workforce pipelines, really focusing on how we prepare students and adults for what comes next, which is a huge part of our conference and SREB's focus. A big part of his work has centered on student engagement. Educators tackle the hard questions we're all facing right now, especially the most glaring. How do we motivate kids? And what does school mean and look like in an AI world? He's going to be a featured presenter at our conference, and he's known for sessions that are practical, grounded in real experience, and really useful, which is what we hope to talk about today. Tony, welcome to the Making Schools Work podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Johnson, let's think about motivating kids. When you talk to students or teachers about motivating students, you talk about moving past surface and sort of basic compliance. What does it mean to move from compliance engagement to ethic engagement?
Okay, sure. Thank you for that question. Well, so there's a couple of things here. One, I think that a lot of us, and when I say us, educators, are locked into some things that's going to come a little later in the podcast, is our generational why, right? So for a teacher who may come from a Gen X generation or the silent generation or one of the other generations, their why could be very different than a Gen Xer or Alpha student, a Gen Alpha. So I think it's important to understand what is that student's why. To say that their why needs to be, you must graduate from high school. If a student doesn't care about graduating from high school and that's not their why, then you're not going to be able to get them motivated because that's not their why. Part of it is we need to understand what their why is. And if they don't have a why, help cultivate them to have a why. That existing in this world, we all need to have a why. Why are we here? What do we want to accomplish? Where do we want to go in society? And help students to get there, because I think what we know from some of the research on mental health, a lot of the current generation, they're really depressed. Their mental health is really impacted in a number of ways, even pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So not to just only tell them about their goals or help them to obtain their goals, but also help them to get there, support them. And as one of our colleagues said prior to the podcast, be that cheerleader on the side to say, you can do this.
You can't teach somebody thing that they don't want to learn. It's really hard. I'm thinking about a 13, 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old who's maybe not that into academics or hasn't really thought about their future. How do you get a student like that to think about the why, to identify a why? Like, how do you do that? What are some steps?
It's a number of things. So one is, what is the student's short-term and long-term goals if they have any? And if they don't have any, there are a number of free assessments online where we can assess students based upon their behavioral characteristics to help them to kind of chart out. And as we all know, that's one of the foundations of CTE, right? Is what pathway or doorway do we want to help students to decide their future? And also, one of the things I say to students and teachers when I work with them in schools in the last few years is society is so different. Like, you all know, when we were all growing up, you had to pick that one profession, you had to go to college for that one profession, and you had to do that one profession. But students can change their mind, and it's okay. And so what I always tell students and teachers is be very robust about the planning process. So plan something out. Now, what I also tell teachers and students, particularly students, is don't have 5 things you're going to do at one time. Like, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a cosmetologist, I'm going to be a veterinarian, I'm going to be this. So pick at least one thing for today, right? But let's revisit in a couple months and let's see, has it changed? And there's certain academic preparation that it's still foundational where you can pivot and do other things, but have a goal, start working towards the goal, and be okay. Raise your hand and asking for help, right? Like, all of us didn't get here because we were just so brilliant. We did so great on the SAT. We went to the top college. We're not here because of that. We're here because we stuck with it. We asked questions when we needed help. And that's, how I believe you progress in life. So I think a part of it, as I said before, with the mental health piece for some students, that we have to encourage them that no matter where they are in the process, encourage them to continue to move forward and motivate them to know that they can do it. I'm sorry, Dr. Williams, something.
No, Dr. Johnson, it's really interesting because even as you're sharing that about just the motivation and helping kids find the path, you also talk a lot about all of the generations that are in the schoolhouse trying to find their why. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Because sometimes we know if that one generation is focused on, you have to go to find the one job, pick your one thing, but we're in a culture where you can't do multiple things. And then the student is in the middle of it going, I don't know what to do because people are telling me different things as far as my future. Can you talk to us a little bit more about just the generations that are at play in our schools that are trying to help kids find their why?
Yes, we have about 4 generations of teachers that are in schools now. We have baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and there's some traditionalists as well who haven't retired as of yet because they're still doing great work in schools. And then the next generation that we have coming up whose birthday would have marked last year is Generation Beta. And that generation marker started in 2025 going forward. Of course, there's no research yet on those wonderful children who are 12 months and younger as of yet, but the marker has started with the time clock to see what are some of the societal implications that would decide how the next group of young people would evolve and what their value systems would be. So it's very interesting. And look at my future presentations because I'm going to keep up with that research and I'm going to share that with a broader audience. But back to your question, I get so excited about that topic. You see, I'm talking about the future. That's not what you asked me about. So there's a couple of things that I do in several of my presentations. One, I unpack some of the generational research so that people can understand what some of their values are on the screen. I put it right in front of them. I say, hey, for Gen X, here are some of the typical, what the research shows, the motivating factors for your group. Here are some of your non-negotiables. Here are some of the goals you have for your life. Here is how you view love. And they're like, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the way to be because I'm a Gen Xer. Yeah. So then I flip the script and I say, okay, now let's look at the baby boomers. The research says that most of you are. Then I go down the list of, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. So everybody's so excited and they're waving the flag of this is me. Right. And I tell them that's great. But guess what? When we go to work and we're in schools and we're teachers and we're counselors and we're principals, we got to get all these generations to work together in harmony for students, parents, and our community. And how do we do that when we have very different value systems on the approach? And what I tell them is one is no better. Looking at these columns on the screen, one is no better than the other. But we have to figure out how to work successfully with each other. So that's one bucket. The second one is I share with them, and I'm sure you all have seen the research on love languages and how do you receive love and give love. So I do that as well in my presentation. I say, how can you work with students and you don't know what their love language is? Your love language that you are in education is love. Now, it's not in our job descriptions, but that is definitely what it is. So I say, if the student, their love language is gift giving, right? That is the way that they feel and experience love. Then they might need a little piece of candy from you and they might need a pencil because that is the way. So I tell them to think about love language in the context of education because students will be motivated based upon how they understand you value and appreciate them and in return. And then the third bucket that I talk about, which is a little interesting in my generational piece as well, is I tell teachers to think about, and I'm sure you all have heard of this research, is birth order, right? Like, who is the youngest of the siblings? Who is the middle child? Who's the only child? And I said, think about that dynamic in your classroom. Only children, I am one, right? We have a natural kind of leadership ability. We had to lead ourselves. We didn't have an older sibling or younger sibling, so we had to figure it out. We had to do what mom or dad said, and we had to follow the script, right? Now, older children have certain characteristics, as you all are aware, and younger children and middle children. So what if we did some more than ability grouping in schools when we have students working on assignments in classroom? What if we group them by love languages? What if we group them by birth order? And you're like, oh my God, we never covered that in PD. And I say, well, that's why I'm here. But I can go on and on for a while, but I'll pause there because I want to get invited back to a future podcast.
No, that is so good.
I do just want to dig in. What I'm hearing you say is context matters.
Yes.
And I'm thinking that you talk about the generations, right? So a teacher who is 50 years old and has been through the system of education versus a teacher who's 25, who is who's experienced education as a student in a completely different world than that teacher even has been teaching in. Those have very different, you have to think of them differently, and they have different experiences and different responses to students.
Absolutely.
Okay. So thinking specifically about Black and Brown and minority students, and I think that's been seen as a real challenge. Statistics show that specifically males are really, there's a huge gap. And so motivation is certainly a key component. When you have people ask you about what can we do, or what are some strategies, or what are some practices or steps we can take at our school to engage that subpopulation, what are some things that you talk about with schools?
Make sure you show them that you love them, first off, because Black males, we go through a lot in American society just to exist. And then what Black males we do, particularly younger, is we build this exterior shield to appear to the outside world that we're unfazed by anything and that we're hardened. And I'll give you a really quick story. When I was a principal of an alternative school, I had one Black male who was having a lot of challenges. He was in the child protective services space, and he just had a lot of home challenges. So I was very intentional to give him a hug every morning and say, hey, man, everything's okay. Do you need anything? Let me know. Drop by my office, and I'll check on you later in the week. So a couple of other Black males saw me give him this professional hug every morning. So they like, Mr. J, where my hug at? Like, you just love on him, and what's up? I don't get no love. So it was just very interesting to see that the ethos of love, it permeates, right? And how do students don't know necessarily how to ask for it or know they need it. So it's just important to know, to help them understand that they're valued. The second thing is that social media gives a very one-sided view of what a career trajectory could look like for Black males. And it does not show the totality of so many different career options for them. So I think it's really important to have college and career conversations with very poignantly, because even if they don't know, you can at least get them beginning to think about possibilities. My career trajectory as a student who was taking honors courses in high school, and I think I had maybe a 3.5, 3.6 GPA, I was getting ready to be a garbage collector in the city that I lived in, because for me, it didn't matter what my grades were in school. I was a Black male. That was considered the good job in the city that I was in. We couldn't afford college. My mother, who raised me by herself. So for me, I was like, okay, I got to get these good grades so I can pass that entrance city exam so that I can be a garbage collector so I can contribute to the household. Like that was it. And I was excited because I had a goal, and so of course I had an amazing teacher that said, Tony Johnson, that is not what we're doing. And she pushed really hard, and hence I'm a 4-time graduate of Florida State University because of that amazing teacher who then told my mom that, hey, he's really smart. Let's do this together. And they partnered together. And that's how it happened. But, again, it's not even about grades. I had the great grades, but guess what? The school counselor didn't tell me that those grades should set me on a certain trajectory for a certain path. So I think it's important to have these college and career conversations. And also, as we all know in education, create some amazing experiences, college and career fairs. I just hosted 2 events over the last 2 weeks. I don't know if you saw on social media the new quarter zip phenomenon amongst young men of color.
Quarter zip like sweaters?
Yes. Yes. So I know you've heard of it, Dr. Williams. So, Mr. Rock, the new phenomenon is males of color are saying that they are ditching their sportswear for quarter zips and drinking Starbucks and giving the perspective that they are headed towards greatness. And they're going to start that now by dressing like a young professional. Some of the videos on social media, sweatpants and a sweatshirt or t-shirt, and they say, this isn't me anymore. I'm getting ready to set my path for my career trajectory. And then it flashes to the next screen and they're in Starbucks with quarter zips on and drinking matcha teas and coffee and say, oh, did I summarize it well, Dr. Williams?
Anything? Summary. I see the meme. Yes, the video, the reel.
So I reached out to 2 high schools here in the District of Columbia, and they were very excited. It was like, oh, Dr. Johnson, we're all in. So I reached out to some African-American men in my network, because these schools were predominantly African-American, to come in. And I mean, I had an overwhelming response, maybe 15 men. They all had I'll send you some photos as well after the podcast. So they all had quarter zip. We put them in small groups and did some short-term and long-term college and career planning about these goals. We're not doing anything else today. And then we drunk coffee and et cetera. And the whole experience may have been an hour and a half, but what was so meaningful was hearing them begin to think about and articulate their path, and secondarily say, and when is the next one? So is that the kind of engagement that I think we need to do with them? Not just quarter zip, but I was just giving that as an example of all of the different types of engagement things we need to do to get these young men knowing that they do have a future and we can help them get there.
I worked at an alternative school for a few years, and they had these are students who have been basically expelled.
Absolutely.
And they would do a night out at a nice restaurant. It was an experience that took preparation, but it was very meaningful to them, and it had an impact. I guess what I'm hearing you say is it goes beyond the classroom. One,
absolutely.
Goes beyond the classroom, and it goes to thinking about sort of your self-image and how you view yourself and having an impact on that. And you have to sometimes think outside the box a little bit to do that as a school leader or even as a teacher. Let's talk a little bit, and this kind of goes to motivation and engagement. And it's this world of AI in the classroom.
Yes.
I think right now you see teachers are very much of 2 contradictory minds. They're excited about what AI can do for them, the power of it in terms of saving time, helping them create resources.
Mm-hmm.
And they're terrified / aggravated to the fact of the level of shortcuts it provides students. It's really forcing people feel like we have to choose between. So what are you seeing in schools, and what are some of the feedback and ideas that you're trying to push or that you are working with schools in terms of what this looks like?
It's interesting you say that, because a part of my presentation in the SRB conference last summer was a very small piece on AI, but they took a really long time unpacking it. So I want to spend more time this upcoming summer to discuss that topic. Everything you just said, though, Mr. Rock, there are quick adopters and people who love it. There are teachers who are pushing back and say it is the second coming of all things negative, and I'm not doing it. And you have everything in between. So my message to educators is this. It's similar to Common Core standards, next generation standards. We're not going to fall passionately in love with as educators. We're just not. There are certain things we're going to love and certain things we're not. But AI is here to stay. So I tell educators, whether you like it or not, you need to be able to have AI literacy so that you are able to work with your students who are actively engaged in it, irrespective of your personal view of it. I really like AI a lot, but I am also clear that some students are using AI in place of authentic learning, problem solving, and critical thinking. And what I share with teachers is 2 things. One, definitely, quote unquote, police AI, make sure the ethical considerations are there and that students aren't just running stuff through AI to give you some generated stuff and put their name on the top. So they should definitely continue to be in compliance there to ensure they're not doing that as much as they can. But also secondarily, show them the ways they can use AI in a positive, productive way. And I'll give you a couple examples. And that's your next question, Mr. Rock.
You know me well.
Yeah. So what do they know then, Dr. Johnson? I got it. All right. So one is AI can be a very powerful tool for tutoring, right? So a student can easily create a chat bot in a chat GPT, for instance. So I'll give you a quick example. The student could type, and I think we talked about this, you and I, one-on-one. But so a student could say, I need a biology tutor. I am a 10th grade student. I am struggling in biology and I need a tutor. And I want my tutor to be called Tutor Mike. Tutor Mike has 4 degrees in biology from an undergrad, bachelor's, PhD. Tutor Mike has worked with kids like me before, and I need Tutor Mike's assistance. So the student just types all of that I just said in Chat GPT, and Chat will create a personalized tutor for this student. The student hits the microphone on GPT, and it will be a voice, and it will say, hi, how are you, Sam? This is Tutor Mike. I'm ready to help you with biology. Can we first start out? Can you the title of the book that you're working from with your 10th grade biology course? And you type that in and say, oh, wonderful. Yeah, I can help you with that. Do you want to start with chapter 2? So they can talk back and forth, ask questions, they can type questions and that kind of thing. So a lot of students don't know that what most adults are doing. They're editing existing writing in AI or generating writing in AI and put their name at the top. But AI is so much more than that. Of course, as you all are aware, some teachers who are more advanced with their AI literacy are using AI for very robust lesson planning, right? So it could make a lot of alignment to the standards in their school district. It can create assignments. It can create assessments. It could even do grading. You can upload scanned copies of a Scantron and it can grade the Scantron for you and it can aggregate data. Like it can do so many things that is more than just editing documents. And then the last thing I want to say on this topic right now is that I'm seeing in the workforce a lot of people using AI to generate, and it's okay to use it to generate some things in the workforce. But I can tell you where I see a lot of people making a lot of missteps is when you're not in front of your computer, you don't have access to AI. We're sitting around a conference table, and we need to be thought partners. You don't have much to say. But you can generate these 50 pages as attachments, and that part is great, right? So we're around the table. We're trying to figure out how to create this amazing school improvement, robust thing for the school district. Yeah. We want to replicate it through the country. We want SRB to write about it, but you can't give us anything. And I'm saying that not to be judgmental or point fingers, but students have to understand that you're not going to have AI at the fingertips everywhere. And when you're sitting in front of your boss at a table, you're in a thought partner session at work, folks want authentic ideas. They want them thought out. They want them to be critical. They want them to be grounded. And you can't say, oh, wait, hold on. Let me see what ChatGPT or Gemini has to say about it and read from your phone, right? They want to know that you know these things. And if you cheat and skate your way through using AI, whether that's K-12 or college, long-term, it has no value add for your career, whatever that is.
I love how you said using AI in that positive and productive way versus allowing it to be your brain to think for you. And I believe that's just part of preparing students for that college and career readiness. So employers out in the workforce are looking for what you bring of value to their organization, or even if you are the owner of the business, right? Think and innovate and add creativity to the goals that you have for your business in order to do what you're trying to do in the world. And I love how, you bring that perspective of AI, it doesn't have to be an enemy to us, all the things for us in a shortcut kind of way. It can enhance productivity if we learn as teachers, as educators, and teach students that it can do so much more for us than what we're using it for. Kind of reminds me of like our cell phones, right? A lot of times I laugh in our schools, your kids, they push the speakerphone and they're talking to their friends, but the camera's facing the ceiling and everyone can hear the conversation because it's on speaker. And you have a whole supercomputer in your hand, be making money for you. Absolutely. Most of the times, no. We limit the tools that we have at our fingertips because we just don't know how to maximize their productivity to help us produce. So I love that you bring that to the world through Captivate, but also that you bring that to the SRAB conference as one of our featured speakers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm also thinking about what you were saying about the people who can write a report but can't talk about it, who can't explain it clearly. Thinking about assessment is going to be essential. If we just give grades, busy work on worksheets or answers that don't reflect what we actually want them to learn, if I want students to show me that they understand the causes of the American Revolution and the taxes from the British and everything, I have to create an assessment where they have to show me, I can explain those in real time. And a lot of it is going to be more real-time learning and real-time demonstration of learning, but also as a tool for learning. Like it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So it seems like a shame to ban that because it can be powerful and it can be a tool for cheating. And I honestly don't know how our folks are in the schools, it's going to be we're going to really have to find ways to navigate that. I don't know that we figured it out yet. I don't know that I've seen anyone. Have Erin or Dr. Johnson, have you guys seen anybody who's really balanced it really well in their classrooms, like examples of that?
The places where I see AI being used is the teacher that's embraced it as a tool that, like Dr. Johnson was saying earlier, understanding the why. Why are kids using this to cheat? Because I'm asking them to think. So the teachers that are using AI to push thinking in students, they flip their lesson. And what they're asking kids, they even take the permissions off. Yes, you can use AI for this, but you cannot use AI to write your paper. You can use it as a thought partner. You can use it to help you make your outline, and giving space for kids or giving them prompts or things like that to use it. So the places where I see, and I can't say that I see this a lot, but there are a few teachers that I've seen that have personally taken ownership of them learning AI and its power, especially for them in the classroom, and then pretty much taking away the opportunity for students to use it for its low-level use and actually pushing their thinking and teaching them how to use AI as a tool to support their cognitive productivity. And when it's in effect, it is phenomenal and kids are producing great things. And they're even surprised that they're able to think and innovate and create the way that they can out of their own brain using this tool. It's really exciting. But I agree with you, Dan. And for the districts that say no AI at all until we figure out what this monster is going to do for us, the districts that are cloaked with fear that all of our kids are just going to use it and cheat and never think again, those are the places where the struggle is real. It's districts that have been like, we want to use this as a tool, but we want to put policy parameters around it. And our organization helps our membership states with guidance around AI. We have a lot of resources on our website to help those that are like, I want to use AI, but I want to use it in a smart way and help my kids use it in a smart way. To those that are embracing it, it's helping push productivity.
Nice plug. Good job.
And that wasn't even a plug, Dan. That's just real talk. That's who we are. That is what we do.
That's what we love.
Yeah, can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah.
So I made a couple of quick notes that I wanted to talk about quickly. One, I think it's so important that educators do diverse assessments. And I think, Mr. Rock, that's one thing that you were alluding to. So it should be quizzes, tests, project-based learning, just a number of different ways that even if you come in with this 20-page of AI generated paper that you wrote your name on the top of,
as the kid says, slop is one of the
absolutely. That there's so many assessments in this class that you're going to have to know the content to be able to demonstrate it in real time when we're in class. Another thing that I see educators and schools struggling with is, of course, there's a lot on the AI compliance, right, and enforcement of AI policies. And I told my team we need to build up our repertoire in this area. And that is more on what are the free tools teachers can use to make it meaningful for themselves and students. Because I think people are clear that you should not use AI to cheat, right? That's right. But then I think we need to move a step past that, right? How to use AI in a positive, productive way on the teacher side and the student side. We at Captivate are being very purposeful over the last few months, where we are looking at a lot of different websites and apps so we can share with teachers in our professional development. Here are some teacher resources and here are some student resources that are no cost, and you can use it and it'll help both.
Do you have a website with that information?
No, it's a document that we're working on. But once I get it refined a little bit, I don't mind sharing it for sure. Because I want this to be a broader thing.
It's something you'll share at the conference, I'm assuming.
Yes, for sure. I'm going to do a whole QR code with that. The other two things I wanted to say as well is Dr. Williams, you and I had kind of talked about this in our previous conversation. It's prompt engineering, right? A lot of people don't know how to develop a prompt in a way that can provide you very meaningful context. And also, AI is so great that it can give you suggestions on how to improve whatever you're working on, right? You're thinking around something, your approach to something. So more than just, let me just do it for an assignment, it can kind of see. So you might say, hey, I'm a very unmotivated student. I don't know why. What suggestions do you think I should become more motivated? Because my dad wants me to do like my brother and go to a college that has a great football program. Hint, hint, Mr. Rock. So, AI can help, with that kind of thing. And then the last thing I want to say on this topic is just excitement in the classroom, because we aren't just competing with AI. We're competing with smartphones as educators. We're competing with smartphones. We're competing with lights, cameras, everything exciting that you can see. And if we don't gamify more of the academic learning in our classrooms and get students excited, because one thing I still tell teachers is that we ain't competing with the same thing we were before and I don't want to date myself with age, but I'm going to say this, is when television went off at like 11 o'clock and the flag waved, right? And it was only like, 8 channels on the television. Students have choice and variety in so many aspects of their lives. And we can get stuck with, but school is school. But no, we're competing with that. So how can we make it very exciting in school for them? And there are a lot of ways to do it. And one of the things that also push teachers to do is I say your lesson planning is more than you paying your bills, and you something to eat, and talking with your fellow teachers. Lesson planning period needs to be meaningful, and you need to do deep dives with yourself and your colleagues so that you can create these robust learning experiences so that students are so on fire that when the bell rings, you're like, oh my gosh, class is over already? But I look at a lot of these classrooms, and I know you see it as well. It looks the same as when I was in school many years ago. I won't say that number. And it shouldn't, right? That was a long time ago. So we really need to innovate. And sure, technology is great for that innovation, but and I tell schools too, if you don't have the technology budget, you can still be very creative, and AI can help you do that. And you can tell AI, we don't have a robust technology budget to do all these wonderful bells and whistles. Please give me some suggestions that are a low bar without technology that we can do. And those are some of the things. But let me stop there, because again, I do want to get invited again.
No, you will. So I think I like, and one thing that just came to my mind as you were talking, and this may be a terrible idea, but I could almost imagine an assignment where you tell the students to use AI to develop a game and to help your fellow students learn the content.
Absolutely.
So the goal is to learn the content.
Absolutely.
You have the content. And as a student, I put it in AI. I say, give me ideas, give me suggestions, create the questions, create the game board. Show me what should this look like? What should that look like? So now I've used it to create this thing.
Absolutely.
And then we put the computers away and we all take turns playing each other's games to learn the content. Right.
And I would add just one small piece of their prompt engineering. And I think me and you have something to take on the road.
Okay.
Is put the title and the author of the book, and it will make the game directly linear to the textbook our class.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. The teacher has a review guide, right? A unit guide with all the standards.
Sure. Absolutely.
So for you, Dr. Johnson, I'll recommend our very first episode of this podcast was on prompt engineering.
Oh, wow.
As you take your next drive to your next conference, go ahead and crank that up. Is there anything else around these topics of motivation and engagement, around AI, or around the play of intergenerations that we didn't talk about, that maybe is part of your sessions, that's part of your presentations or your work, that you'd just like to share with our audience as a sort of a closing thought?
One of the things that I also share with educators is be open-minded, right? Like if we all knew how to do this, it wouldn't be school improvement as a thing, right? If we all knew how to do this, there's so many things that wouldn't exist. So just be open-minded and know that we're all trying to do the best that we humanly can in education by each other, and especially our students, and being open to learn. Because even with the busy life you have as a teacher, one of the things that made me successful as a new teacher who did not have a degree in education at the time and no experience, but my assistant principal saw something in me and hired me as a teacher, is outside of teaching, I was always trying to learn, because what I said to myself is, this is going to go one of two ways. I'm going to mess this up for these people because I don't know what I'm doing for these young people, or I'm going to be excellent. So I was on YouTube being trained, and I was figuring out, made my own professional development path because I wanted to be really great. And the promise I made to my assistant principal when I signed the contract was, I said, give me 1 up to 2 semesters, and I want you to truly evaluate me. And I want to part ways if you do not feel that I'm serving these students the best way that I can. I said, it's a very new space for me. And I said, so I'm going to try really hard. I said, because I've had horrible teachers. We all have had horrible teachers. And I've had some great teachers too. I don't want to be one of those horrible teachers. So please give me authentic. And she poured into me. She gave me resources. She sent me to 2 conferences. And I, in turn, my students really saw the outcome because my lesson plans were well thought out. I knew how to support them in a meaningful way. So that's one piece. The other thing is with AI, it's not going away. And I want folks to know that because it's not going away, how to use it in a very positive, productive way, both to design the classroom experience, as well as for students to use it in a very meaningful way as they are learning. And then the last piece, going with the generational piece, is that we all have something very beautiful about our lived experience. So baby boomers have something that's amazing, Gen Zers and everybody in between. And the harmony is when we can learn from each other and support each other and find the common ground, is where we're going to be able to move the needle forward in education, whether it is in suburban schools, urban schools, or rural schools. We have to want to work together towards a common goal and be honest about having difficult conversations. If I was a teacher and Ms. Williams was a co-teacher and she did something in the meeting that made me mad, I don't want to not talk to her for the rest of the year. I want to be honest and say, hey, I want to learn so much from you, but you said something to me that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. How can we kind of move past this? And I've used that example because the generations are so different. I mean, Dr. Williams could have said something that she didn't think I would be offended about, but I might be a sensitive teddy bear, right? And what she said hurt my little feelings, and I cried the whole night before I went back to school. So we just got to be honest with each other, and we can be honest in a very productive, positive, professional way, but have a growth mindset. How do we move past this so that we can better support each other as educators and support our students so that they can learn at high levels and achieve very positive goals for their life?
Absolutely. This is in the words of your love language, this has been very quality time that we've spent together.
We made you into a believer, Mr. Rock. I'm glad we made you into a believer.
I hope that other folks enjoy your session.
Thank you.
Check it out. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Dr. Erin Anderson-Williams. Thank you, producer Ashley Shaw. And we appreciate everyone listening. See you on our next episode of the Making Schools Work podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. SREB is a nonprofit dedicated to improving education from pre-K all the way to PhD and into the workforce. Visit sreb.org for resources on instructional practices, teacher data, career pathways, and more. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at SREB-School Improvement and on Twitter/X and Instagram, both at SREB Education. See you next week.